Welcome on into the Fantasy Football Forge. It is time to wrap up this week's ranking shows. I do specify the shows because these are not going to be my final rankings, especially quarterbacks and tight ends are the most likely to have the fewest alterations to them throughout the week. But you can look for my updated rankings up on the website. That's what I'm trying to get to, www.theFFforge.com throughout the entirety of the week. You can also find links to the website, to those rankings pages down in the description. And I'm going to be here live on YouTube 3 times between now, this evening being the first time, Thursday evening, through Sunday for Start Sit questions. I will have my rankings up on the screen throughout the entirety time, all of that. So you can find me here live once again for those sessions at 6:30 p.m. tonight Eastern Standard Time prior to the game. And then on Saturday evening, same time, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and Sunday morning, 2 hours prior to kickoff, I will be here live yet again for your Start Sit questions. And I would say the ones where if you really want to get into just talking about football and stuff, Saturday evening, those are going to be the loosest. A lot more trade questions, that type of thing, too, coming through last Saturday. So that's exciting. It was a pretty good success last Saturday. We had a good time. So I hope to see you there. And I think that is it for the announcements. So today's video is going to be the quarterbacks and the tight ends. If you want to jump ahead to things, I do have bookmarks in the description, or bookmarks, that you can follow for that. So let's first recap for the quarterback position how I did last week with my fades and my loves, and then we will go through in tiers my quarterback rankings this week. So my love was Jordan Love of the week. Jordan Love had a QB 11 game, so that sounds good, right? But I ended up not giving myself a point for this. Maybe I could have given myself a half of a point because I did have him ranked 9th, so it's not like he did drastically different than where I had him ranked. But the idea of a love is that not always that they absolutely. I give them, it depends, right? So in this instance, I had loftier expectations for this game, and you really didn't meet them with less than 17 fantasy points, depending on your scoring format exactly. So I just didn't give myself credit for this. Fades, Joe Burrow, did give myself credit for because I earned this one. So I went 1-1 here. I had this game pegged as a possible upset. I was concerned about the upside, and that is what led me to fading Joe Burrow. And, it still was a bit of a surprise, the end result of the game. I thought that Cincinnati would find a way to win in a close game, a 20-17 kind of game. But nope, that offense really was even worse than expected, and so he finished as quarterback 27. So he was definite bust, definite good call on fading him if you did last week. Now let's get into the rankings of the first tier, and I think I'm going to have to resize this just a little bit, so I'll be right back. There we go. Now the screen looks just a little bit better, and there's my first tier. Look at, I gotta really squeeze in here. There's my first tier over there. My quarterbacks 1 through 8. Starts off with Josh Allen, quarterback 1, going up against Miami. A lot of upside excitement there, but that's followed by Anthony Richardson, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, Jared Goff in at my quarterback 6, Jaden Daniels and Tua Tagovailoa to finish that off at my quarterback 8 this week. So I will say this again shortly because that's what I have written up for my fade, but this week I think is a good week for quarterbacks. We could see a nice high-scoring fantasy point week after, I think, a little bit of a disappointing week 1. I don't know that that's out of the norm, but we're going to start off here with my first love at quarterback 6, Jared Goff. I don't think I have to explain too much else, and the other guys, you're almost certainly starting them if you drafted them. Jaden Daniels might be the only, Jaden and Tua, but maybe you'll have some questions, but obviously here I'm saying to give him your trust this week. For Jared Goff, though, he's the one who given my love for. Sorry about that. Going up against Tampa Bay, and that, it's all about the matchup for these. So Detroit has the highest expected point total via early betting odds, so that could change throughout the week, but as of the time of doing this exercise, that was true. and he is at home this week against Tampa Bay. I think that the best way to beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is through the air. They tend to have a more stout run defense, especially the north and south run defense. So if you watch the running backs video, you can see a similar thread of how I expect this game to go, and in terms of in favor of Jahmyr Gibbs and not David Montgomery. Things can always not quite work out as expected. That will happen literally every week somewhere. But this week, I'm real high on Jared Goff, given that my love. I'd have a hard time sitting him if I have him, but it's possible you have him and somebody else up there. That's going to bring us on to the second tier of quarterbacks. And I was just going to go through these first two tiers. The rest of the rankings are up on the website. But I decided I will show you the next tier, and then I'm going to talk about like the next four, so through quarterback 19, because I figure there could be some question marks on those guys. And as always, in the comments, if you have any questions, if you have any disagreements, whatever, air it. I prefer if you do it in some sort of, polite way, ask questions, etc. Why do I like somebody so much if you disagree with it? But regardless, the comments always help, whether they're nice or mean. So go right ahead, comment away on what you agree with and disagree with on the rankings. I do like that conversation, and sometimes it does shape my ranking. Sometimes I go back, I think about it, I'm like, you know what, that person had a good point. Why am I so high on this? And then I have to justify it to myself. Or the opposite, why am I not high enough on somebody? So this tier starts off with Kyler Murray at my quarterback 10, followed by CJ Stroud, Matt Stafford, Baker Mayfield, Brock Purdy, Dak Prescott, and Joe Burrow at my quarterback 15, going up against Kansas City. If Kansas City had T. Higgins, if their offense was rolling, if we're week 6 and everything's going smoothly here, it's a different story. I probably have Joe Burrow ranked 6th this week. But there's just enough here. Dak Prescott, I definitely wanted to put Joe Burrow above Dak Prescott, but given what happened in week 1 against Cleveland, I think a better defense than New Orleans, at least coming into week 2 of this season, that's my feeling, then he earned the spot ahead of Joe Burrow here, given that offense's week 1 performance. Brock Purdy going up against Minnesota, Baker Mayfield, Detroit, Matt Stafford, Arizona, Kyler, the Rams. There's a reason that all these teams, I said the quarterbacks, I like them this week, and that leads me to CJ Stroud. My concern here out of the top guys this week, the starting options, I am fading him. I have the most concern about this going up against Chicago defense. Chicago has what could be a really good secondary, and off the top of my head, without really going through this too hard, I mean, at the end of the season, they could be like the best in the league, although coaching, I guess, probably limits, makes me, let's just say, they could be a top 3, top 5 type of secondary very easily. If Jaquan Brisker and Tyreek Stevenson, who are going into their 3rd year and 2nd year respectively, take steps forward, then there's really no holes in the secondary. It quite probably becomes a very tough secondary if it's not already. What I'm not going to do, and what's not influencing this, even though it might seem like it, is week 1, at least not very much. The game versus Tennessee, it's Tennessee. I had concerns about Will Levis and everything coming in, so I don't know what to take away from that quite yet. We'll see when the whole body of work comes through if that was something that was impressive or not for this Chicago defense. This is where I see the bust scenario going. Chicago, I think, matches up pretty well against Houston, although Houston has answers literally at every position and in every way. So it's just going to take CJ Stroud playing a smart game, and it just might be, the ceiling might be a little bit lower this week, as I think the game plan, and this will come through my tight end position video, and it came through in the wide receiver video too, with betting on Stephon Diggs. It's going to be more of a dink and dunk kind of week than really getting the ball out for those big gainers out to Tank Dell and Nico Collins. That's going to bring us on to this 3rd tier, which I said I would show you. So let's see. Okay. And I could have just cut it off there. We'll give you the full tier. But Justin Fields, Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence, and Kirk Cousins to wrap up my top 19 quarterbacks are, I think, where some questions might be asked. Some people might be thinking about playing these guys. So for Justin Fields going up against Denver, I think this Pittsburgh defense is going to give this offense plenty of opportunities, plenty of clock, could work in their favor to get things going. And so it's just the ceiling for Justin Fields that I'm willing to attack yet again this week. He's, running quarterback. That always helps. Justin Herbert, this is a floor play. I think he's pretty safe. The ceiling could happen, but I expect them to run a lot, not a whole lot of passing. It's just going to take, that running game to falter right near the goal line a couple times, and then Justin Herbert has 2 passing touchdowns, and we're going to be a little bit low on him. But for the most part, I'm betting on the running game this week against Carolina more so than the passing attack. Not that I'm afraid of the passing attack, just that I don't think there's a great ceiling there. But I will take the safety net of Justin Herbert. At least as of right now, there's some shuffling that could happen within these 3, especially Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence, and Kirk Cousins. Trevor Lawrence going up against Cleveland, week 2, going into week 2, like I said, I still have appreciation and respect for this Cleveland defense. It's possible that the league figured it out. It was one of those defenses that could be figured out. And Jacksonville's going to be at home against Cleveland here, if I recall correctly, so that goes a long ways to in terms of how Cleveland's defense performed last year. But I'm still not overly confident about it, still not overly confident about where this offense is in Jacksonville yet. That's a work in progress. Could be very good by the end of the season, but right now, I'm not overly excited about this. And then Kirk Cousins, right now, I'm not overly excited about. A very concerning week 1. I'm sure a lot of you have seen the reports, the concerns, the data, the analysis about how much that injury might still be hampering Kirk Cousins and how that might be affecting the play calling. I know head coach Raheem Morris came out and said it's not, but I mean, if it's not, then it's just bad play calling. Again, in Atlanta, quite possibly. So that wouldn't be good. But there is a ceiling here against Philadelphia that's tantalizing, that, you could argue to take ahead of any of these guys in this tier. But that's about it. Even Joe Burrow, I'd say, is a smash play over these guys by a little bit just because of the opportunity here. Hopefully a full allotment of Jamar Chase. I don't know. We'll see. That's going to bring us on to the tight end, so let me bring those up, and I will be right back. So before we get into week 2 tight ends, let's see how I did in week 1 for my love and my fade. Once again, I just choose one love, one fade for the tight ends, just like Bob Marley would. And so for my one love, terrible joke, I went 0 for 1 here. This isn't a situation here where I could have given myself partial points or something. Dallas Goedert finished as the tight end 13, which doesn't sound so horrible, but then when you remind yourself that the tight end position absolutely suck and that the tight end 13 was good for 5.1 fantasy points, you'll understand why I ain't giving myself no credit here. That being said, if you played Dallas Goedert and you went up against somebody who had Travis Kelce, Dalton Schultz, Jake Ferguson, Mark Andrews, Dalton Kincaid, Evan Ingram, all guys who went before Dallas Goedert. Well, no, that's not true. But all guys who are in the same argument, you get my point here. You went up against any of those big names, and you had the better tight end. So, I don't know. He didn't come through. It's kind of like the argument at the quarterback position for Love. He definitely didn't come through to the extent that I thought he might and could. He did land amongst, part of the reason for Loves is that, especially in some instances more than others, is that even if they don't stand up to my expectations, the floor is still there because of, you need a floor in order to build a ceiling. And so he did still fall amongst that floor, so I do give myself partial credit for this, but officially I didn't. 0 for 1 with the Loves. I was expecting more from Goddard, and to be frank, I'm a little bit concerned that maybe Goddard isn't anything special. I've thought he was, and I made excuses for him, but I'm starting to get concerned about that. In terms of my fades, this is a disqualification. No points could be allotted here. I will say it wasn't looking great, but my fade, I didn't write the name down for myself, was Jake Ferguson. Who knows what would have happened for the rest of the game if he was healthy. So let's just get right on into week 2's rankings, and I have a tiny tier right up top. Travis Kelce, Sam Laporta, all on their own after this. there's some questions. But I am more excited about Travis Kelce this week. Cincinnati, not fantastic against tight ends, I don't think. And, I expressed concern about Rashee Rice and the targets going elsewhere. And Travis Kelce is definitely one of the guys where the elsewhere targets could be going against Cincinnati. And so that is where I'm putting my chips all in there. Sam Laporta, same deal here, expecting a better week against Tampa Bay. And, if the run game does struggle, the tight end is one of those positions that can kind of help supplant that run game with a quick passing game. So to just help keep that pass rush away from you is why you do that. Not that Detroit's probably going to be I don't know, this Tampa Bay pass rush could be something. We'll see. They've invested in it in previous years, so maybe that's something that they have to fear about a little bit. That's gonna bring us on to the next tier, though. You're starting those guys; it doesn't matter. But sometimes it's fun to talk about the good players too. So, my tight end 3 this week is Trey McBride, Dalton Kincaid. Following that, my tight end 4, Dalton Kincaid, followed by George Kittle, Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely, and Dalton Schultz to wrap this up as my tight end 8 this week. So, for the most part, we're going to give these guys second chances, the ones that let us down last week. Trey McBride going up against Los Angeles Rams, of course, great. Dalton Kincaid, upside here. It's possible. Maybe we got this wrong on Dalton Kincaid. Maybe that ball is just going to be spread too thin. It really comes down to if Curtis Samuel gets too many targets, that's who I blame for that. George Kittle going up against Minnesota. So initially, George Kittle was going to be my love. I was thinking of possibly not fading George Kittle against Minnesota, because a lot of times when San Francisco's playing an inferior team, George Kittle just kind of sits back and blocks, and they attack from the outside. The only thing here is that also when San Francisco is facing a good pass rush, which is the best part of this Minnesota defense, they tend to leak George Kittle out as a nice little safety blanket for Brock Purdy to just get rid of the ball quickly too. That's been my experience with them over the past year. Every year is different, of course, and if there's one play caller who's going to want to change things up year to year, game to game, week to week, it is, of course, Kyle Shanahan. But George Kittle, at the end of the day, I said, you know what, we're going to go with that narrative, but it could go any which way. It who knows what the game plan is, right? You just play George Kittle. That's why you just play him. Mark Andrews, we're going to get... It's close. It's close here, right, already. But Las Vegas did not do so hot against the tight end week 1, so we're hopeful here overall, though, for Baltimore, thinking that it could be another week where Las Vegas struggles against tight ends, of course. And then Dalton Schultz going up against Chicago. So I talked about this a little bit in the quarterbacks section. I think this could be more of a dink and dunk type of game. I should have resized this. Is this bugging anybody now that I see it? They're just more full over there. Dalton, I think this could be a dink and dunk. The attacking on both edges, they might, just have some trouble getting the ball out to Nico Collins and Tank Dell. And Dalton Schultz is one of the guys who I think could definitely help them move the ball against the Chicago offense, running the ball again this week. I might have to go back to my running back rankings, and the running game might be a focus here again this week. So that's going to bring us on to my third tier of tight ends. I have notes here for Dalton Schultz. So this is a love by default. I said I had a different love initially, but I have Schultz ranked higher. He is likely to be started, and he is more likely to be started, talking about my other love, which I will get to in just a moment here. He's in this upcoming tier. And I'm more bold on Schultz than the ECR is, so it only made sense that apparently I'm in love with Dalton Schultz, even though I'm a little bit more excited about the other guy. But when it came down to it, Dalton Schultz is the love, which leads us into this next tier, and who was the mystery love of my life. Kyle Pitts is my tight end 9. He is not the guy. Brock Bowers, could it be? It is. Brock Bowers was the other love, so I will talk about him a little bit in this tier. Followed by Dallas Goedert, Colby Parkinson, Zach Ertz, Pat Freiermuth, and Evan Ingram, all making it into this tight end tier. Evan Ingram being my tight end 15 this week, and he is my fade of the week. So let's cover Brock Bowers. I changed it to Schultz. I just want to point out that you should be very happy about the week 1 results. That's the main thing. I just want to congratulate those who took a bet on Brock Bowers. You know, my rankings were fine on him. They suggested to go right ahead and take him, but it wasn't like a target of mine. I was concerned, but I also understood the opportunity. So those who took a bet on the opportunity, I'm going to go ahead and hopefully not give you a too early congratulations on this, but I'm going to say things did not go to the best case scenario for Brock Bowers week 1, but they sure came close. And the only reason I say that is because he only had a 67% snap share, so that's a little bit one of those underlying numbers that you would like to see that go up, and it very well might after how well he performed in week 1. He got 8 targets. You couldn't have asked for more. That was fantastic. And also Baltimore struggled against the number 2 tight end in Kansas City, Noah Gray, in week 1. So Brock Bowers being the number 2 tight end technically in Las Vegas, you know. Just saying, could be another nice week for Brock Bowers. So he's my tight end 10. And then, you know, there's a couple of guys here that I'll kind of talk about, include in this conversation about my fading of Evan Ingram. For Ingram here, it just so happens to be a matchup that frightens me in a week where I see safer floor bets. That's where I'm going to talk about Colby Parkinson, Zach Ertz, that I think have a good shot of outscoring Evan Ingram. I'm not saying they will. I'm saying that I'm betting on that likelihood being just a little bit higher than the likelihood of Evan Ingram going off. I'm not dropping someone to pick up Colby Parkinson and Zach Ertz on my roster to start ahead of Evan Ingram. It's not that big of a difference here. It's not that big of a deal. Evan Ingram still has the better ceiling, in my opinion, even than guys like Colby Parkinson, Zach Ertz. But I'm just worried about the bust potential this week, the upside as well, given week 1's performance and not having a whole lot of faith there. Yeah, I think things will develop as the season goes along. It's just week 2 here. Yeah, I'm fading Evan Ingram, and it's showing up in my ranking of him. But once again, Colby Parkinson, Zach Ertz, I like those matchups. Arizona, Minnesota. I think that there's a nice, safe floor that you could see coming through in those instances. I think those are the 2 most surprising that I have up ahead of Evan Ingram. And so that's why I have them ranked there. But they're all in the same tier for a reason here. And so don't go out. If you just have Evan Ingram on your roster, you don't have anybody on your roster that I have ranked higher than him, don't worry about it. Just play him. He could still have a big week. That's always possible. Let's bring us on to, do we need to cover my final tier? Let's cover, this final tier here. If you need to see more, or if somebody's missing that you're curious about, there is a comment section that you can ask about that. My final tier here starts off with my tight end 16, Hayden Hurst, going up against Carolina. I don't know where I was ranking-wise. I think I was high on Hayden Hurst. We know that this coaching staff likes their tight ends, so there's always some sort of level of optimism. I don't know what it'll look like season long here, but going against Carolina is why I am so high on Hayden Hurst this week after a nice showing in week 1. Chico Conco, nice showing week 1. I think DeAndre Hopkins being injured goes a long ways to help here. Going up against New York Jets, a little bit concerning there, but I don't know, whatever. This is why I ended up ranking him. Jonnu Smith could have a week this week, especially if running back Devon Achane, if he's injured, limited, whatever the case, that should give more opportunities to the tight ends in Miami, specifically Jonnu Smith, to do something. And so, in a high-scoring game, there's some upside here for Jonnu Smith. Kadon, same with the upside, going up against Detroit. What I think is going to be a back-forth game. Opportunity's king, and there's going to be opportunities, probably, you expect, in these games for Kadon, Jonnu Smith, in back-and-forth games. Chig, actually, I might lower Chig behind these two. I'm going to do that. Let's just do that right now. I don't know why. I think maybe New York Jets... struggled week one against the tight end position, I'm guessing. It's part of the reason why I was high enough on Chig. All right, so there you go. Oh, you can't even see Chig. Hold up. There you go. You couldn't see Kate Otten before. My bad. One of those things we're just going to have to live with. All right. That's it. Thank you very, very much. I will see you Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. Thursday, Saturday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Saturday to Sunday morning, 2 hours prior to kickoff. I'm available, and I will see you next week as well. Peace out.